Good afternoon to everyone and welcome to today's webinar. At BSUP, it has become a tradition to provide our members 2 times a year with in-depth updates on the latest regulatory developments and key files at both Belgian and European level. This gathering is an important moment for us to connect, inform and support you in navigating the evolving regulatory landscape. Before we dive in the files, let me repeat a few housekeeping notes to ensure a smooth session. Please keep your cameras and microphones switched off during the presentations. You can submit your questions via the chat at any time, and feel free to do so, and we will address them during the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. If additional questions arise after the webinar, feel free to email them to us, and we will, of course, make sure you get the answers. Finally, the presentation slides and the recording of the webinar will be shared with you afterwards. Let me introduce myself and our team for today's session. I'm Valérie Verkammen. I'm the Managing Director of BSUP, and joining me are my esteemed colleagues, Linda van Steenwinkel, Scientific Director of BSUP, and Ulrike van den Houten, our Director, Regulatory Affairs and Communications. Together, we will guide you through the most pressing updates and developments this afternoon. We hope you find today's content valuable and insightful. Now, let's begin. Starting with the European topics, I'm pleased to hand over to Ulrike, who will discuss the harmonization of maximum levels for vitamins and minerals. Ulrike, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Valerie, and hello, everyone. So yes, we will pass on to the first topic, European topic, very important, the harmonization of the maximum levels of vitamins and minerals. As you know, the harmonization of maximum levels for vitamins and minerals is a requirement by the Food Supplements Directive. It is described in Article 5. This work has been a priority for the previous European Commission, and the question is now whether it will remain a priority for the new European Commission, but it seems to stay an important topic for them. In this process, a task force with certain member states, including Belgium, has been established, and the European Food Safety Authority, EFSA, was mandated to reassess the tolerable upper intake levels, the ULs, for vitamins and minerals. And this work has been finished in the meantime, and we will come back on that later. Now, despite several meetings in 2024 and the finished work of EFSA, there is still no concrete draft regulatory proposal. And the last meeting took place very recently on the 19th of November. We will come back on the timeline afterwards also. First, some words about the previous proposals, for the proposals we had until now, and the efforts of our industry. You might have heard or read in our previous communications that the first proposal was very restrictive, even more restrictive than the BFR model in Germany, with very low maxima. Advocacy actions have been undertaken by EHPM, the European Federation for the Food Supplements Industry, BSUP, and also sister associations across the European Union. Letters have been sent to members of the European Parliament expressing our concerns and our requests, including that there are no safety concerns that justify a rush decision, that there is a lack of transparency of the process, that well-functioning national approaches should be taken into account, also the need to conduct an impact assessment, and also highlighting the negative impact on consumers from a restrictive approach. Now, as a result, A second, somewhat improved proposal has been put forward, so that already went in the right direction. Now, to give you some more information about the work on European level from EHPM, the European Association. EHPM worked on a model based on sound scientific methodology based on upper levels, reference intakes, and also intake of vitamins and minerals from qualitative national dietary surveys from European member states. This information was put together to work on a model to propose maximum levels for vitamins and minerals. And in this model, vitamins and minerals were divided in 3 groups. Depending on the risk. So as you can see in the table there, so there's group 1, there are no risks that have been identified, and so no MPLs have been proposed. For group 2, with low risk, MPLs have been proposed, and group 3 is a group where a higher risk is identified for particular groups, and thus MPLs have been proposed. And this has been done on the 2 levels that were determined, adults and children from 4 till 10 years old. So if you want to know more about this work and this model, you have the link in the presentation on top, or if you click on the image of the brochure. Now, this EHPM model, it was a big work, and it has been presented to DG Santé, that is the Directorate General for Health and Food Safety, and also 6 national authorities, Belgium, Greece, Ireland, Italy, the Netherlands, and Portugal. And recently, a big and constructive work has been done to align this EHPM model and the FSC model. So FSC, that is the other European Association for Food Supplements. And the 2 European associations work together to aim for a unified voice within the EU industry. So to come back on the EFSA work, as I said, EFSA has completed in August of this year its work on the upper levels for several vitamins and minerals. The opinions have been published on, as you can see in the table there, on copper, on selenium, on vitamin B6, vitamin D, folic acids, manganese, vitamin A, iron, and vitamin E. So in the table, you also have all the links to the EFSA opinions, and under the table, the link to the resume of this work. Just one remark on iron. Due to insufficient data to define a safe level of long-term iron consumption, a maximum intake level, so an upper level UL, was not established, and instead a safe intake level was defined for different target populations. So, all that said, let's take a look at the expected timeline. A meeting, as I already said, a meeting took place between the European Commission and member states on the 19th of November of this year, but no draft regulatory text is available yet. There were too few member states that participated in the discussion, and the European Commission seems to be worried about not finding a majority for the proposed approach, even though that this approach has in principle been approved by all member states. So the next meeting is scheduled for February 2025. And even though no clear timeline is communicated yet, the purpose is really to finalize a proposal and to have an agreement of the member states. And then in that case, a stakeholder consultation will be expected to take place around March 2025, so after the publishing of the proposal, and then there will be a call for data, for evidence. So we hope we will be able to share more information with you soon. But also in the meantime, there's a rather worrying evolution in France. ANSES, that's the French safety agency, they published an opinion with low maximum quantities. You can read the full opinion if you want, if you click on the link in the presentation. And this work by ANSES has been done in response to a request from the Directorate General for Food that was already in September 2023. And the ANSES assessment has as objective to draft a law updating the 2006 regulation on food supplements in France. And the assessment focused on revising maximum daily doses for different population groups. So there is adults, adolescents, and children under 10. They also recommend excluding fluoride, sodium, and boron from supplements. And they also advise against the use of supplements for children under 3 without medical supervision. So rather restrictive measures. And the French government is continuing to work on a new decree and is planning a TRIS procedure in 2025. So this initiative is rather confusing, and we wonder why they continue to work on national limits when there should be a European proposal for harmonization. Of course, it doesn't seem logical and a rather strange initiative from this point of view. And also the low maxima and the restrictive opinions are rather worrying. But of course, our French sister association, SINADIET, they took immediate action. They started to discuss with the French government to, of course, ensure that companies would not have to adapt their wordings twice in a short time, first for the French legislation and then for European legislation. So we will keep you, of course, informed about this evolution too. And then I will give the word back to Valerie for the next topic.
Thank you, Ulrike. Yes, let us now dive into the heads of agencies reports. We have communicated a lot about that report because it was quite worrying, I must say. The heads of agencies are in fact the heads of the safety agencies of the member states. Which for Belgium, SPF Santé, Volksgezondheid, and not FAVV AFSCA. What did they do? They collected a list of 117 substances that were suggested by the member states for review. And these substances have been categorized as follows. 65 substances are assumed novel, and they will be discussed during a second phase. 49 substances are assumed not novel, but considered at risk for the consumers, and 3 substances have already been subject to Article 8. This is the case for Monacolin K, Aloe Verox, and Aloe Vera. Let us look to the priority number 1 of the first phase. It's a list of 13 substances. You can see them on the screen. And those substances have already been referred to the European Commission for triggering Article 8 due to safety concerns. The substances that you see highlighted in yellow are flagged as priorities because they are considered CMR, carcinogenic, mutagenic, or reprotoxic. This is the state of play of the list. What you must know is that melatonin, that you can see in the table, is not considered as a priority because the heads of agencies found that in many countries, melatonin has been already regulated, for example, via national regulations. The second priority are substances that might raise concern based on their hazards and would require a risk assessment prior to be taken into consideration for an Article 8 procedure, which is, according to us, is clearly a disproportionate approach. For the substances in Table 5, the heads of agencies concluded that they do not have enough information. That's for the substances here on the screen. As for NAC, N-acetylcysteine, Lavandula angustifolia, Mentha piperata, and Morus alba, there is good news. They are considered to be safe by the heads of agencies. This was for the first phase. The second phase of the heads of agencies report concerns the classification of 65 substances as novel foods. For those substances, the heads of agencies will they intend to forward them to the Working Group on Novel Foods from the European Commission and the Member States. They will establish a priority list based on market availability. Meanwhile, of course, Member States can still submit proofs of history for consumption. Within our working group, we analyzed the list of the 65 substances, and we can conclude that a lot of them are either forbidden botanicals or botanicals that are not often used. And for the ones that are used, our Dutch colleagues from NPN, our sister association, have found some evidence of history of consumption prior to May 1997. The report has raised our concerns regarding, again, a potential misuse of Article 8 for classification and a potential misuse of the novel food legislation. We also saw that the food agencies, which are primarily responsible for safety evaluation, are now engaging in risk management proposals, which may be disproportionate. Finally, we noticed substances being flagged based on their hazard characteristics and not based on risk, raising the need for detailed risk assessments before advancing under Article 8. To address these challenges, we are collecting safety data, and we will engage with different stakeholders and try to mobilize them to ask for their support. Most of you will have heard of the successful CNADIET and BSUP court case on AHADs before the European Court of Justice. We believe that this court case could change the way Article 8 is sometimes being misused for classification purposes. And we hope that this court case, I will tell you more about it in a few minutes, will avoid launching Article 8 procedures for the substances of this HOA, Heads of Agencies reports. Now over to Linda for an update in the Article 8 files.
Hello. Let me give you an overview of the state of play of the different Article 8 files, in which stage they are, and what the deadlines are for the different procedures, Article 8 at this moment. But first of all, let's explain for those of you who might not be very familiar with the procedure of Article 8, what it is in fact. Article 8 is an article in the enrichment regulation. So that's the regulation on addition of vitamins and minerals and other substances to, in our case, food supplements. Article 8 is in fact the safety procedure. When the risk, when a member state or the European Commission wants to have the safety profile of an ingredient investigated, they can initiate the Article 8 procedure. So it can be on the initiative of a member state that the procedure starts, or on the initiative of the European Commission. There are in fact three regulatory options that are foreseen. An ingredient can be added to Part A of Annex 3 of the regulation. In that case, it is banned completely. It's not usable anymore. It can be restricted. For example, a maximum level can be installed. In that case, the substance, the ingredient, is placed in Part B of Annex 3, or the substance can be placed under scrutiny. In that case, it's placed in Part C of the annex. When an Article 8 procedure is initiated, the industry has 24 months in total to prove the security, to deliver safety studies for the ingredient in question. The European Commission has a total of 4 years maximum before taking a decision. So the decision can be a further authorization of the ingredient, but it can also mean a restriction or a ban. So, and most of you will be familiar with some of our important ingredients that were submitted to the Article 8 procedure in the recent years. We had, of course, the case of the monacolins in red yeast rice. There were the extracts of green tea containing epigallocatechine gallate, the hydroxyanthracene derivatives, the HADs, among which the aloe species Rheum senna cassia, alpha-lipoic acids, that's also ongoing. And then the three latest procedures that were initiated are those concerning hydroxycitric acids and preparations containing hydroxycitric acids, plants containing berberine, and fennel, the two kinds, bitter fennel and sweet fennel. So the regulation on monacolins in red yeast rice is in force since 2022. You are certainly aware that the amount of monacolins per day should be below 3 milligrams, and there are some extra warnings. The scrutiny periods started on the publication of with the publication of the regulation. Then you add 2 years, 24 months. So until the 21st of June of this year, proofs of the safety could be delivered to the European Commission. So there has been a lot of work done by EHPM, who have set up a big project to provide safety studies. There has been a collaboration with the University of Bologna, for example. Professor Cicero has delivered safety studies. There has been an alliance of 12 companies in 3 countries, Belgium, Italy, and the Netherlands, who have worked on this project. The ultimate decision by the European Commission has to be taken by the 21st of June 2026, so 4 years after the initiation of the publication of the regulation. Green tea. Many of you have been concerned by the new regulation that was published in 2022 for green tea extracts that contain EGCG. So just as a reminder, green tea extracts have been placed in Part B of the annex of the regulation. So there are some restrictions on these green tea extracts. The label, for example, it should mention the maximum number of portions of the food for daily consumption. There is a warning also that is imposed not to consume a daily amount of 800 milligrams or more of EGCG. The label should also mention the amount, the content of EGCG per portion of food. And there are a number of warnings that should be on the label. No consumption if you are consuming other products containing green tea on the same day. It should not be consumed by pregnant or breastfeeding women and only by adults, so not by children below 18 years old. And it should not be consumed on an empty stomach. As you know, beverages, due to the heavy lobby from the beverage industry, were excluded from these requirements. Green tea at the same time was placed in Part C. So it's green tea extracts containing EGCG, I mean. So they were placed under community scrutiny. This is ongoing. The decision, the decision by the European Commission has to be taken on the 19th of December 2026. So beverages again were excluded from this placement in Part C of the regulation. Alpha-lipoic acids. The procedure, the Article 8 safety procedure was initiated by Denmark. EFSA has issued an advice in June 2021. They could not establish a safe dose, that's important. There was one health problem that could occur with alpha-lipoic acid, which is the insulin autoimmune syndrome, also known as the Hirata syndrome. So it depends, in fact, on the genetic constitution of people, but in Europe, it's a syndrome that is extremely, extremely rare. So it's a risk that does hardly occur in the European population. So at this moment, the member states, there has been an official consultation with the member states, and the member states have taken very different positions. Some would like to ban alpha-lipoic acid completely from food supplements. Others, like the Belgian authorities, for example, they would be okay with placing warnings on the labels and restrictions. Sorry, restrictions are also possible. And there is also the possibility, of course, of the placement under scrutiny. EHPM has issued a position paper. So Valerie will explain later on. There has been this court case that we won at the European Court of Justice regarding HADs. It is very possible that the outcome of this court case will have an influence on the decision that will be taken on alpha-lipoic acid. But that, of course, at this moment in time is still unsure. Then there are these three other substances, HEA, berberine, and phenol, which are the latest, the most recent, in fact, for which the Article 8 procedure has been initiated. Hydroxycitric acid, for example. Hydroxycitric acid was an Article 8 procedure that was asked by Spain. We all know, for example, Garcinia cambogia, which is used in food supplements. The EFSA assessment is ongoing at this moment, and it should be terminated. They should deliver their assessments on the 15th of May of next year. Berberine, similar situation. The Article 8 procedure was asked for by France. The EFSA is the assessment by EFSA is ongoing, And the deadline again is the 15th of May 2025. And same situation for sweet and bitter fennel. In this case, it was Germany who initiated the Article 8 procedure. The EFSA assessment is ongoing, and again, EFSA has the time until, at latest, the 15th of May of next year to deliver their assessments. And then, very important topic at the moment, hydroxyanthracene derivatives, the HADs. So we have this HAD regulations since 2025. So a number of substances were banned. They were placed in Part A. These were aloe-amodin and all preparations in which aloe-amodin is present, and also amodin, and all preparations in which it is present, And then preparations from the leaves of aloe species that contain HADs, and then also dantron, which is in fact a synthetic substance. And then under scrutiny were placed in Part C of the regulation preparations from the root rhizome of rhubarb, Rheum palmatum, Rheum officinale, and their hybrids, preparations from the leaf of Cassia senna, and also preparations from the bark of Rhamnus frangula, Rhamnus pursiana, all containing hydroxyanthracene derivatives. So something is happening, has been happening lately. You see this big cross appearing on this regulation, but I will give the floor to Valerie again, because this is an important moment in time that will have an impact on this regulation. I give you the floor to you, Valerie.
Thank you, Linda. Yes, indeed. You can imagine that BSUP is very proud of the result of the court case because we are convinced that it will create a very important precedent, having an impact on future Article 8 dossiers, on the report of the heads of agencies, list of botanicals, and so on. But just to explain you what happens, together with our French association SINADIET, we asked for the annulment of the regulation that dated from 2021. And on the 13th of November, we learned that the European Court has followed our requests, and we are very proud of this case, of course, and especially of the precedent that it could create. So the legal basis for the annulment of the regulation was in fact what we always said, the misapplication, or should I call it the misuse of Article 8 of the regulation. And two critical points underpins this decision. So the first one is the lack of evidence on excessive intake. The European Commission failed to demonstrate that the addition of HADs would result in a significant exceedance of intake levels under normal consumption conditions. And the second point was the lack of public health risk, a very important point in our eyes. The EFSA opinion of 2017 on HADs, used to justify the regulation, concluded that there was no risk to public health under normal consumption conditions. These points are elaborated in paragraph 78 and 79 of the European Court judgment, which really are key arguments. And for example, these paragraphs could be cited if national authorities would demand withdrawal of products containing HADs. So a very important court case. So the judgment was issued on November the 13th, as I said, and was published in the official journal of the European Union one day later, on November the 14th. And according to procedural rules, the European Commission has 60 days, so This leads us until the 14th of January 2025 to file an appeal with the European Court of Justice. But it's not on the contents, but only on legal issues. So this is a very important information. So if the Commission appeals, the annulment will be suspended during the legal proceedings. But if no appeal is filed, the annulment will become definitive on January the 15th, 2025, an important day for our industry. We at BSUP, we therefore recommend not taking action to reintroduce products containing HADs to the markets before January 15th, 2025. Of course, if the strategy in case of a recall is different. So if national safety authorities require or would require the withdrawals of products containing HADs, you can contest this order using the arguments that I just explained. So the invalid legal basis, because Regulation 2021-468 is no longer valid, and also the absence of consumer risk. So the judgment confirms safety under normal consumption, and then you can use paragraph 78 and 79 of the judgments. Now over to Ulrike to understand in which cases liquid food supplements require a tethered cap and the state of play of the revision of the PPWR.
Yes, indeed. After this important topic on the HADs, we will treat some topics concerning sustainability, completely other topics. So first, we will provide you with a brief overview on how the SUP directive, the Single-Use Plastics Directive, applies to food supplements and when liquid food supplements require a tethered cap. So first of all, it is important to know that this directive is also applicable to food supplements. So there is no exclusion for food supplements. However, it is really important to understand the definition of a beverage because a tethered cap requirement applies only to beverages. BSUP insisted on this point, and we can refer to the European Commission guidelines, which clarify that food supplements that are not consumed directly from their container or that require further dilution do not fall within this scope of beverages. So to be clear, if something is not consumed directly from its container, it is not a beverage, and thus it does not need a tethered cap. Some examples there are syrups or droplet bottles. And also, if a product requires further dilution before consumption, it is also not considered as a beverage, and thus no tethered cap is required. And there are some examples are powders that need dilution or liquids that need to be further diluted. We also discussed this interpretation and this opinion of the European Commission with SPF FOD Environment, and they have adopted this position. So as a result, only the shots or unidoses will require a tethered cap. That's really important to understand. The shots or unidoses are consumed directly from their container, so they are considered as a beverage and they fall under the scope of the SUP directive. The SPF FOD Environment also told us that they will focus on controls in the drinks industry and certainly not in our sector in a first phase, of course. But at the moment, no specific controls for our industry, but mainly on the drinks industry because there is a lot of work to do. But in other countries, however, the enforcement has already begun, and we know, for instance, from our Spanish colleagues, that there are already controls in Spain. So we need to be attentive to that. Okay, so since we're talking about plastics, let's continue with a similar subject, the PPWR, or the Packaging and Packaging Waste Regulation. And most of all, the impact of this on our industry and the need to create a working group on this topic. Maybe some of you participated to our packaging workshop that we held recently, and they already realized the problems that are approaching us with this PPWR. So it's really crucial to be aware of this. But first, some context maybe. The European Commission proposal for packaging and packaging waste regulation was issued on November 22 and is now near to finalization and should be adopted in 2025. Then after adoption, it will enter into force 20 days after publication in the official journal of the European Union, and then it will apply 18 months after this entry into force. So, in other words, if we look on the timeline, this means implementation is foreseen we think, by the end of 2026, with a gradual approach of implementation of the measures. Now, the purpose of this PPWR is to reduce packaging waste, and the objective is to reduce, reuse, and recycle. So, as you can see here in this visual, the objectives are to prevent and reduce packaging waste, including by more reuse and refill systems, make all packaging on the EU market recyclable in an economically viable way by 2030, so that is tomorrow. Increase the use of recycled plastics in packaging in a safe way. And the bigger purpose is to decrease the use of virgin materials in packaging and put the sector on track to circular economy and climate neutrality by 2050. Okay, so the proposal counts really a large number of pages, but here are some key measures of the PPWR. First of all, the recyclability requirements. So by 2030, all packaging in the European Union must meet minimum standards for recyclability, making reuse or recycling more practical and mandatory for producers and retailers. Then the incorporation of recycled materials. Certain types of packaging, like plastic, will need to include specific percentages of recycled contents, and that pushes industries towards a greater use of secondary raw materials. Then there's the reduction of excess packaging. Measures aim to eliminate unnecessary packaging and reduce void space. There's often a lot of empty space in packaging, and also especially in sectors like e-commerce. And companies must match packaging size closely to the product dimensions to cut the waste. So in other words, the packaging must be functional and there be no excess of packaging. Then a reusable systems expansion, that's by 2040. The regulation targets by then 80% reusable packaging for specific industries like food service and takeaways. And that will necessitate systems for collection, cleaning and reuse. Then there's an important point about digital product passports. That's a new system that will require that each packaging type will need a digital passport, which details the materials, the recyclability, and the end-of-life management. And this is, of course, to improve also transparency for consumers, businesses, and regulators. And then an important point on labeling standards. The packaging will need clear labeling to indicate the disposal methods and material composition. And there will be a need for standardization of this information across the European Union. So no more country-specific information. So this is on a more general basis, of course, but now let's take a look at what will be the impact for our industry, for the food supplements industry. And then, first of all, I think it is important also to highlight that despite our efforts, the food supplements industry has not obtained a derogation for meeting the recyclable packaging compliance by 2030. In contrast, the pharmaceutical products and the FSMPs, that are the foodstuffs for special medical purposes, they have obtained a derogation allowing them to comply with certain recyclability standards by 2035. So that's 5 years later than the deadline that is imposed on most other industries. So for our sector, no derogation on that, despite our efforts. And when we look at our sector, we can see that the primary types of packaging used are most of all plastic jars and blister packs. So let's take a look on those two examples. So concerning the plastic jars and the lids, there are already compliant materials available on the markets. So that is the good news. But unfortunately, you also have to count on significant financial and operational burdens because these materials, they might be more expensive and require operational adaptations in your production or packaging lines. And additionally, you also have to think about new stability testing to ensure the product safety and integrity, of course, and that will further increase costs and complexity. So even if the producers of packaging materials, of jars and lids, they are ready, there are compliant materials, there are still a lot of inconveniences and difficulties that the sector will have to face. And then the second type of packaging, that's the blister packagings. This situation is even far more concerning because there the packaging industry is not at all ready. They have very few compliant blister solutions that are already available. And you have to know that historically, the food supplements industry has relied on packaging innovations that were developed by the pharmaceutical sector. The blister packagings are not used by the pharmaceutical sector. But since they have been granted a derogation until 2035, the packaging industry has not prioritized developing compliant blister solutions for food supplements because they are not in a hurry yet. But we face this problem. So for 2030, which is tomorrow, it can be a big problem. And not only that, the fact is that there are few compliant blister solutions already available, but the limited options that are currently available, they also don't offer the same barrier characteristics, and that can cause problems for quality and stability of the products, of course. And also, adopting these solutions would require very drastic investments in new machinery or extensive adaptations to current production lines. This includes modifications for compatibility with recyclable materials, also adjustments to forming and sealing technologies, and yes, of course, also rigorous validation processes to meet the regulatory standards. So, as you can see, this is really a very alarming situation. And to address these challenges, we will create a dedicated working group. We really need to bundle our forces to tackle this situation. And so the working group that we want to start would identify potential impact for our food supplements industry on packaging, pricing, machinery, also regulatory considerations. Also identify existing solutions that could address these challenges. Determine gaps also where solutions are still needed, and yes, also establish realistic timeframes for the development. And why not also make contact with potential solution providers and monitor the progress of the solutions that you are developing. And in parallel, we will continue our efforts also on a European level with EHPM. Yes, to see if it is still possible for our sector to continue the lobby work that we already started, but we didn't receive a derogation, but we will continue our efforts to discuss with on a European level. And we also think that the findings and the insights from this working group will or can strengthen our case and support these lobbying efforts. So our call for you also is not only to give you this information, but yes, it's a call for participation for our working group. So don't hesitate to contact us if you want to participate in this working group. And then I will give the words back to Valerie.
Yes, thank you, Ulrike. And so I really invite everybody to join our working group if you are concerned by this file. I wanted to give you also a state of play of our efforts in the probiotics file. Most of you will know my little map with the different countries in Europe and how they apply the probiotics legislation. You know that the problem comes, besides the problem comes from the fact that in the guidelines of 2007, probiotics, the term probiotics was considered as an unauthorized claim. And so that's the reason why at European level, you cannot use the word or the term probiotics. However, a lot of countries have reacted. And on this map, you see the different countries that accept the use of the term probiotic. Unfortunately, it's still not the case for Belgium, despite our efforts. I believe that most of you know the Italian situation. So in Italy, the Italian authorities have designed guidelines for probiotics that contain criteria that probiotics must meet in terms of minimum numbers of viable cells and indications for use. So Italy chose this solution because it felt that consumers had a right to accurate information. And in Italy, for probiotics that comply with the criteria of the ministerial guidelines, operators are allowed to use the claim contributes to the balance of intestinal flora. So not only the term probiotics, but also contributes to the balance of intestinal flora. The second country is the Netherlands, and the Dutch authorities consider the word probiotics as a category. The Food Supplements Directive 2002/46, Article 6.3 states that it is mandatory to indicate the category of substances that characterize the products. So the Dutch authorities consider the term probiotics as a category, and because the mention is mandatory, it falls out of the scope of the Claims Regulation 1924/2006. The term probiotics must be mentioned on the product in the Netherlands. However, it may not be used for marketing purposes. The NVWA, the Dutch authorities, published a very interesting handbook on nutrition and health claims, in which you can find the detailed information. Poland follows the category approach too, and so does Denmark. Spain is a special case. In the late 2020, the Spanish Food Safety Authorities, ISAN, published an update of its rules on the using and labeling of probiotics in food and food supplements. From then on, so since 2020, they accept the use of the term probiotics based on the European principle of mutual recognition, until an harmonized approach would be agreed at European level. However, the term probiotics cannot be accompanied by a health claim unless it is a specifically authorized one. Although one might question whether the use of mutual recognition is correct in this case from a legal point of view, after all, the claims legislation is harmonized, the update published by ISAN was an important step forward in the acceptance of the use of the term probiotics in Spain. And then, since the last one, and for us a very important one, since 2023, the French authorities allow the use of the term probiotics too as a category designation for food supplements. The products can also contain the sentence that probiotics contribute to the balance of the intestinal flora. To use the category, food supplements must provide a minimum of 10 to the 7th to 10 to the 9th living cells of a strain per day. Following the authorization in France of the use of the term probiotics, we were determined to achieve the same for Belgian companies, of course, and we launched a very comprehensive advocacy campaign targeting some key stakeholders like the cabinet of the Minister of Health, Frank van den Broeke, the regional ministers of economy in Flanders and Wallonia, members of parliament from the federal government. We had a federal government at that time, and particularly from the Health Commission of the federal government. We argued that recognizing probiotics as a category was key. And it was not only a sound legally solution with a sound legally basis, but also achievable without changes to existing laws, which is always a comfortable situation for the legislature, of course. And we stressed that it was unacceptable for BSUP that Belgium lagged behind neighboring countries, and thus leaving Belgian operators at a competitive disadvantage. Despite over a year of efforts, our advocacy was clearly blocked by the Volksgezondheid, the SPF Santé. BSUP has established its own probiotics working group to focus on national efforts, but we have also a working group at European level, at EHPM, where I serve as vice chair of the EHPM working group. And we developed technical guidelines for FBOs and also a political statement to accompany the guidelines, calling for an harmonized European category approach. And the two documents were launched this year on the 27th of June 2024. You will find the link to both the technical guidelines and also the policy statements by clicking on the link or on the image. We are now shifting focus to the European level advocacy with the goal of placing the probiotics dossier on the agenda of the new European Commission. Some of you might have heard about the recent Belgian initiative at European level. What happened in June 2024? Well, during the last meeting of the working group claims with the European Commission and the member states, the Belgian authorities drafted a state of play report on the use of the term probiotics across the EU. So member states were asked to provide their input. Belgium aims to reopen the discussion at the European level to create a unified approach. This is something also important to keep in mind. I also wanted to inform you about a very recent report of the European Court of Auditors. It's called a special report on food labeling in the EU. The report was published very recently on the 25th of November, and it contains some key criticisms on different aspects regarding food labeling and also the use of claims, and more particularly on the botanical claims on hold. You know that this is the second time that a European body has raised concerns about the botanical claims on hold system. Earlier this year, we informed you about the initiative of the ComEnvy of the European Parliament that flagged similar issues in its evaluation of the claims legislation. And also, you know that consumers associations like Testachat, Test & Coop in Belgium, but also consumer associations at European level are very pressuring authorities by labeling these claims as unreliable and untruthful. The report addresses also other problems like the lack of harmonization, rules on precautionary allergen labeling, which is a very important topic for consumer safety, of course. Also, it also gives criticism on European rules on legibility of the labels, and this could be an important tool for us in the file for the use of German, as having to mention all compulsory information on the label in 3 languages in Belgium would lead precisely to illegible labels for the consumers. So this could give us an argument to plead for QR codes, but I will explain you more about the use of German in a few minutes. The fact that there are no European rules for vegetarian and vegan labels is also addressed. And also, there is also a lot of criticism on the way member states organize their control systems. And finally, the lack of harmonized front of pack nutrition labeling is also addressed, a point that does not concern immediately food supplements, of course. The European Court of Auditors report also outlines key recommendations to address the shortcomings in food labeling practices across the EU. And these include some recommendations to close gaps in the legal framework. So they recommend establishing harmonized rules to ensure consistency and clarity in food labeling across all member states. Enhancing analysis of labeling practices, monitoring consumer expectations, strengthening checks by member states, and improving reporting mechanisms. These recommendations aim to create a more harmonized, consumer-friendly, and effective and efficient food labeling system inside the EU. The European Commission has accepted the recommendation to find a solution for the long-standing issue of the botanical claims on hold. This is the first time, and it is a significant development with a target implementation date set for 2027. This is really important information for us. Some of you might know that within EHPM, we developed a tool, what we call the graded approach, a practical tool to address the botanical claims on hold issue. It has been presented by both the European Commission and the member states, and we presented it together with EHPM to the Belgian authorities, and it reflects our commitment to help to find an efficient and effective solution for the claims on hold. So if you want to read more about the graded approach, if you are not aware of it, I also have put the link to the documents with explanations in the presentation. So yeah, important news. This will be this means that something will happen between now and 2027, which is yeah, really a close date. And we are ready. We at BSUP and EHPM and with our colleagues from our sister associations, we are ready to contribute to the stakeholders' discussions. A really important report. Over to the Belgian files now. I give the floor again to my colleague Ulrike for the first Belgian topic about the Belgian Nutri-Vigilance Scheme.
Okay. Yes, indeed. A really important Belgian topic on Nutri-Vigilance. We will give you an update on this one, but first some general background information that you might already know. So the Belgian Nutri-Vigilance scheme was launched on the 11th of January of 2024. So almost a year that it is in place. You can find general information on this topic on the FOD SPF website in the link in the presentation, if you click there. Nutri-Vigilance is regulated by 2 royal decrees published in December 2023. One is on the notification of undesirable effects linked to the use of foodstuffs, and the other one on the Nutri-Vigilance Commission. So it's more particularly on the composition, the operation, and the remuneration of the Commission. But you have the 2 links also in the presentation to these 2 royal decrees. And you can also find some other links. It's a page with a lot of links. And that is to go to the forms for reporting adverse reactions. So either online or using a PDF to send by email to the Nutri-Vigilance mailbox address that you can also find on this page. So Nutri-Vigilance is a food vigilance system managed by the FPS Public Health. And the main objective is to protect consumer health by rapidly identifying undesirable effects linked to the consumption of certain foodstuffs. And the types of foods that are covered are food supplements, of course, fortified foods, foods intended for specific groups, and novel foods. The reporting of these adverse reactions is compulsory for operators. The report must concern products purchased on the Belgian territory, but it is also valid for products that are purchased on the internet and then received in Belgium. And the operators must report all adverse reactions. That's really important. So regardless of their nature or degree of seriousness. So that's for the context. And now, what are our concerns about this that we have and that we still have? That first concern is that there is a lack of methodology to assess the admissibility, the analyzability, and the assignability of a case. That there is no scale also to evaluate the severity. There is an absence of methodology to determine causality also. We think that there is a risk that a light nutri-vigilance system undermines the objectivity and usefulness or purpose of nutri-vigilance. And there is also a risk of misuse or abuse, that a single case could be enough to trigger risk management measures, such as dosage reduction or even prohibition for an entire category of ingredients. So that are our concerns. And then, yes, besides that, about the Nutri-Vigilance Commission, we have been told that it has been established, but it is still not complete. So yeah, the commission is not complete yet. We don't know who sits in this commission. There is no publication in Le Moniteur Belge of Belgisch Staatsblad. And there won't be any publication until the commission will be complete, because only then they are able to publish this. So we are still awaiting for more information on that. And also another point is that the members of the commission, so part of the commission that is already in place, they are still evaluating the different methodologies, and they will still have to decide on the system to use. So, okay, the system is in place, but we think that there are still some important points that need to be worked on or need to be finished. Then some explanations about so information that also we received from the SPF and FOT on how a received case is treated. So if they receive a case, there are two options. First, if it comes from a company, okay, they will deal with it straight away. If it doesn't come from a company, but from an operator, a citizen, a healthcare professional, then FOT SPF is going to inform the company that they have received a case, and they also might ask for additional information if they don't have all the information at their disposal. Then they will check if the file is complete, and they will also check if the food supplement has been notified. If this is not the case, if they don't find it in the database with all the notified food supplements, then they will inform AFSCA, FAVV of this problem also. Then if there should be a problem with an adverse effect, a serious problem, then they can contact or ask advice to the Superior Council for Health or the Advisory Board for Botanicals. That will depend on whether it is a problem with vitamins or minerals or with a plant, of course. And then before taking risk management measures, they also promised us that the industry will be consulted before doing anything. We can tell you that we received the information from FOT SPF that for the moment there are no alarming problems that have been reported with a product or an ingredient. And to say it with the words of Karel Berthaud, until the 13th of September, no deaths, no severe cases, nothing to be worried about. So we can take this as good news, of course, and we hope it will stay this way. So about the reporting of the cases, we have been informed that we will receive a report once a year, and this report will be distributed to the Adviesraad Voeding or the Conseil Consultatif Alimentation. This is a big board where all the stakeholders are present, and we have to be aware that also Testaankoop, Testachat is present in this board, and of course they will be more than happy to communicate on this subject also if there should be any problems. So we have to keep aware of that. And of course, in this report, there will be no mentioning of products, product names, but only ingredients that will be mentioned. So of course, we will keep you updated on any evolution of this. And we also ask you not to hesitate to contact us confidentially, of course, if you would receive any case or have any problem. And then I will give the floor back to Valerie for the next topic on the TRIS notification.
Thank you, Ulrike. Here we go. On the TRIS notification, the recent TRIS notification, you might be aware that the Belgian authorities notified a new proposal for a new royal decree to amend the existing royal decree on nutrients, plants and other substances, the ones that have been updated in 2021 and that you all are aware of. So they plan to replace the existing 3 decrees with one consolidated one, and they made some key proposals. The first one, which was really a strange one, is the modification, the unilateral modification of the European definition for food supplements, where they propose to remove the words concentrated source, which is really the essence, the core of the European definition for food supplements, I would say. They also grant themselves the right to refuse notification numbers. They do not want you to use Belgian notification numbers in the context of an application for mutual recognition in another country. And we know that this is a practice that is very common and popular even inside the EU. They want to make food supplements for children compulsorily subject to the opinion of the Superior Health Council, le Conseil supérieur de la santé, de Hoge Gezondheidsraad, and they require prior approval from the Advisory Board for Botanicals for essential oils and capsule. When we were informed about this new proposal, we immediately sought legal advice, and our lawyers identified several violations. They are of the opinion that the proposed decree is hampering the free movement of food supplements in Belgium and across the EU through additional restrictions, that it modifies the EU definition unilaterally by altering the EU definitions of food supplements without an agreement, that it resembles a marketing authorization procedure. It aligns more with marketing authorization, which is contradictory to the provisions of the European directive. For food supplements, you have a notification and not an authorization, not a marketing authorization procedure. It also increases complexity. It adds some burdensome requirements like frequent analysis, complicating the process for Belgian and foreign manufacturers, and it also violates mutual recognition. It goes against the principle of mutual recognition of goods between European member states. We actively collaborated with EHPM, our European Association, and our sister association within EHPM by sharing our legal advice, and many of our colleague associations contributed to the with valuable inputs to the TRIS notification, to the TRIS consultation. I've put you the link so that you will be able to read the contributions of the different associations within the EU. And we want also to extend our gratitude to all our colleagues and sister associations for their support and contributions in this case, which is very important. Despite extensive stakeholder feedback, the authorities, they seem completely to disregard the comments from the stakeholders and also even the feedback provided by the European Commission. So during our most recent meeting with the Belgian authorities, they confirmed that the proposal for the Royal Decree has now been submitted to the Raad van State, Conseil d'État, for review, without taking into considerations all the remarks of the stakeholders of our industry. We are now facing two scenarios. So two scenarios are possible. Either the Raad van State, Conseil d'État, will comment about the infringements. In the other case, it is also possible that the Raad van State, Conseil d'État, will not make comments about the infringements. And in that case, BISUP will have no other choice than ask for the annulment of the Royal Decree within 60 days of its publication, which is really a pity, but it's such an important Royal Decree for us that we will, of course, do it. We are ready to do it. I have some excellent, I'm the one that brings the good news today, so I have some excellent news to share with you today also about the extension of the tolerance period for not using German in the German-speaking part of Belgium on your labels. So we really did not expect it, but the tolerance period has been extended for 1 more year, so until the 31st of December 2025. We received many questions about the use of German on labels, and let me try to give you some comprehensive information about this file. So in fact, the use of German has always been mandatory. So the legislation on the use on languages dates from 24th January 1977. But due to an error in the transposition of the Food Information for Consumers legislation, there was a loophole and there was an error which left a gap in the legislation. And this is the reason why, even if you did not mention German on your labels and you are selling products in the German-speaking community in Belgium, you never were fined by FAVV AFSCA until now. What does the legislation on the use of languages say? Well, they say that the information, the compulsory information on the labels shall be at least available in one of the language or the languages where the products are made available on the markets. So this means, for example, if you sell products in the Brussels region, the information, the compulsory information should be written on your label in French and Dutch. Only Dutch in Flanders, if you sell in Flanders, and French in Wallonia, except in the German-speaking community. And the German-speaking community are the 9 municipalities that you can see on the slide. So Kelmis, Eupen, Lonsen, Raren, Butgenbach, Amel, St. Viel, and Burgruiland. The use of the languages is a very sensitive issue in Belgium. And what happened after a complaint by the German community, the loophole in the law was fixed on the 22nd of September 2022. The new law was published, and some amendments were made. It was a correction law. And so the formal Article 8, Paragraph 1 was adapted. And you will note that the new Article 8, Paragraph 1 now refers to labeling instead of label. And the definition of the term labeling is written in the FIC regulation, so the Food Information to Consumers regulation. And it says that labeling is any words, particulars, trademarks, brand names, pictorial matter or symbol relating to a foodstuff and appearing on any packaging, so the packaging, of course, document, notice, label, ring, or color accompanying or referring to that foodstuff. So this is an important difference that you have to be aware of. The FAVV AFSCA confirmed to us that the tolerance period has been extended. So it's not a transitional period, but merely a tolerance period, but that is valid until the end of 2025. And this has been possible thanks to the joint advocacy of FEVIA, the food industry, of which BSUP is member and part of, and Comeus, the industry of the supermarkets. So we are really glad that our request to extend with 1 year has been followed. Within our working group, Technical and Botanicals, we often discuss this file with our members, and we are looking to practical solutions. So the peel-off labels, also called multi-layer labels, are a solution, but they are, as you know, they are quite expensive, and they are against the trend to reduce packaging waste. So they are not sustainable. So this is something important to know. Until now, QR codes are not accepted because the legal services of the Cabinet of Minister Clarinval, who is in charge of AFSCA FAVV, they ask for a legal advice, and QR codes are not compliant with the requirements of the FIC legislation. But like I just told you about the report of the European Court of Advisors, the ECHA report, and the need to have legible labels, so labels that are legible for consumers. This could be an important argument, but until now they are not accepted. And another solution that was also mentioned by some members is using the outer packaging. As you know, all mandatory indications must be on the outer packaging. There is no specific regulation for information on the inner packaging, except for the use-by date. So therefore, for products sold in the German-speaking area, German is mandatory for all mandatory information on the outer packaging. So these are some kind of practical solutions that have been discussed within our working group. What will happen in practice on the 1st of January 2026? So, like I said, until the 31st of December 2025, so 1 more year, you could be controlled by FAVV AFSCA. controls are possible because, for example, in the framework of a complaint or an official control, but you will not receive a fine. And we have received written confirmation of this from FAVV AFSCA. As from 1st of January, well, let's say the 2nd of January 2026, AFSCA FAVV will start with controlling. It's a sensitive issue, and we will by then have had 3 years of tolerance periods. The labels will have to mention German if your point of sales, of course, is in the German-speaking part of Belgium. Sometimes members ask us, will this lead to a recall? Well, no. This is not a food safety issue, so there is no risk for consumer safety. So it will not be a recall, but a withdrawal could be possible. So we really recommend our members to comply as soon as possible with the legislation. And if you are contacted by FAVV AFSCA, it always helps to show your goodwill. For example, by proving to them and telling them and informing them that your new labels provide German information if you are selling in the German parts of Belgium. I hand now the floor to Linda for an update on the botanicals in Belgium.
Thank you, Valerie. Okay, so it has been a rather calm year, 2024, for botanicals in Belgium. As you know, at the beginning of this year in January, a new version of the Royal Decree plants was published. I'm just mentioning it because I've noticed that some companies were still using, mostly in the first half of the year, the old version. So make sure that you download the new version of the plant Royal Decree when you're developing or reformulating your food supplements. So yes, I am in the Plant Commission to represent our sector food supplements since the beginning of 2023. And I've seen the workings of the Commission. Most of you are probably aware, aware more or less of the functioning of the Commission, which products are evaluated by the Commission, that the Commission issues specific advices on botanical preparations. In 2024, in fact, there has only been one advice on Capsicum chinense that has been issued by the Plant Commission. But this was less important for food supplements. It had to do with the hot chip challenge that you have probably heard of. That was really dangerous for young people. It was one of these challenges that did rounds on the internet in the last 2 years. So what has been going on at the Plant Commission? For example, there is a specific dedicated working group inside the Commission who are working on a manual for healthcare professionals. The Plant Commission had received, mostly from pharmacists who are selling food supplements, a question what they could answer when a customer or a patient wanted to purchase a food supplement for a plant that is mentioned in the RD with the condition, consult your physician or pharmacist. In many cases, the pharmacists or physicians were not, well, sufficiently educated, they told us, to answer these questions. So the Plant Commission has decided to develop a manual that will contain some extra information for healthcare professionals on interactions with specific medicines, for example, contraindications. For example, don't take this when you're pregnant, or these are the dangers when you're pregnant or breastfeeding, and specific warnings. This will include 115 plants for which the RD mentions consult your physician or pharmacist. The intention of the Plant Commission is to publish this manual publicly, so for everyone to view, on the website of the Federal Public Service, but the timeline is still uncertain. And I hear some echoes that there are still discussions on how toxicology oriented this information should be. A second point that was quite interesting in the Plant Commission this year was that we had, in the last meeting at least, we had a report for the first time on the mutual recognition dossiers that were treated for plants. So mutual recognition, Valerie already mentioned it. It's such an important principle to ensure the free movement of goods in the European Union. It's one of the big principles of the European Union. Mutual recognition, in fact, says that, yes, okay, if a product is legally marketed in one member state, it should be accepted by another member state to be legally marketed in that member state. There is one reason for which member states can refuse a demand for mutual recognition, and that is when they can prove that there is a public health risk. So for botanicals, which most of them are complex dossiers are treated by the Plant Commission, and all products, in fact, with essential oils are treated by the Plant Commission. They have in total received 12 requests for mutual recognition between the dates of between the beginning of the year and the 26th of August. 11 of which were from one company. So 8 have been accepted and 3 were refused because they could demonstrate a public health risk. This public health risk in these 3 cases was always for exceedance of the maximum limits of active substances that have been decided on by the Plant Commission. For essential oils, it is important to know that the maximum, the limits for certain active substances in Belgium are lower than, for example, in France. So 8 dossiers were accepted, 3 were refused, 1 was still pending at the moment of reporting. So 3 dossiers were immediately accepted by the public health, by the public service, the Federal Public Service internally. These were simple dossiers with 1 essential oil for which the Plant Commission had already issued a monograph, so that was easy to evaluate. And in total, 9 dossiers were referred to the Plant Commission. Another important thing, and it's often signaled to us at BSAP by our members, are the long transit times at Plant Commission. So, when we look at it, it's often a question of incomplete dossiers that are entered by the companies. I've seen some dossiers pass by where basic information that is obligatory was not entered into the initial dossier. That's one thing. But even when a dossier is complete and it's a complex dossier, the experts can require extra data. Another thing that causes these long transit times is that the notification of the Plant Commission with the decision of the Plant Commission to the company can only take place after approval of the meeting PV. So there are 6 meetings of the Plant Commission in 1 year, every 2 months. In a first meeting, when a new dossier is entered, the dossier is first, an expert is appointed to evaluate the dossier. In the next meeting, 2 months later, the evaluation of the experts is presented to the other experts in the Commission. And it is always possible that they have extra remarks. Then, of course, the question has been these questions, extra questions of the Commission, have to be transmitted to the company again, who has to answer again. So that can take some time. But in general, the experts themselves are very, very punctual, I would say. When they are appointed as an expert for a dossier, in the next meeting, we have their evaluation. But it is quite important for a complex plant food supplements and for essential oils in particular that all the maximum limits which are for active substances that are published on the website of the Plant Commission, that these are respected. That's one of the basic principles. Another not so good news, in fact, in the last meeting of the Plant Commission, a decision was taken to put a maximum limit on the content of hyperforin in St. John's wort extracts, Hypericum perforatum, St. Janskruid, le millepertuis. They have decided to put a maximum of 800 micrograms on hyperforin. I was a little alarmed, but at that moment didn't have the necessary data to protest. But I will still intervene in the next meeting of the Plant Commission next week, because you know that in our RD, there has since a long time been a maximum on hypericin of 700 micrograms. If now a maximum of 800 micrograms of hyperforin is installed, this is in fact a very skewed ratio of hyperforin versus hypericin. Yeah? Because the natural ratio of hyperforin versus hypericin in St. John's wort is at least 5. So we have a problem here. I will try to discuss this with the experts next Tuesday. So at the meeting at the 17th of December, I am gathering from our members, and especially from the Working Group Botanicals, more information at this time to build some good arguments, to maybe revise this advice. It has not yet been published, but in fact it has already been adopted at the last meeting. But we will see what we can do at the next meeting, which takes place on Tuesday, next Tuesday. If there are among you, if your company has products, with St. John's wort on the market, and this would have an impact, this decision would have an impact on your product, so just send me an email, then I can take this information with me at the meeting of the Plant Commission. Okay, thank you. I will give the word to Valerie again.
Thank you, Linda, for this update. So we are at the end of our presentations. Let me go to the chat. I think that there are some questions, and if you still have some questions, do not hesitate to ask them. Let's say I answered. There are a lot of there are some questions about the PPWR, and it's very difficult to answer them because it depends on the type of material that you use. But we have the criteria in the slides of our workshop packaging that we hold in the month of October. So we will share them with you so that you can see and check for yourself. Then we received some very interesting remark about the a remark in a notification acknowledgement of receipt about the use of the languages, and it appears that the Belgian authorities are not writing it down correctly. So German, so in Wallonia, it can be either French or German. It is only German in the 9 German-speaking municipalities. So we will address this with the Belgian authorities and we will ask them to correct it. Are there some other questions? I do not see some other questions. Oh, yes, new messages. Let me check. Rhodiola. Rhodiola is one of the, there is a question about rhodiola. Rhodiola is one of the botanicals on the heads of agencies reports, I believe. So yes, at this moment it will indeed stay permitted, and like I explained to you, I'm very well, I'm quite confident that the decision, the judgments in the European court case on HADs will have as a consequence that launching Article 8 will be very difficult in the future. Okay, another question about the use of languages. The question is, can we use Dutch or French for the Walloon part of the country? Or does this always has to be a single language label? No. The legislation is clear. It's at least, you have to use at least the legal language. So in Wallonia, at least French, or if you are selling in one in the German-speaking part of Wallonia, one of the 9 municipalities where people speak German, at least German, but you can add, of course, other languages also. Another question about the tethered caps. If you have a product that can be both taken diluted and undiluted. Yeah, that's a problem, I would say, because what Ulrike explained it very clearly. If you can dilute it, it is not considered as a drink, and you do not have to put a tethered cap. But if on your label and you give the advice to consume it right from the bottle of the container, so undiluted, then you will have to put a tethered cap on it. Yeah, another question about so the name of food supplements, so the indication of food supplements. Yeah, it's one of the compulsory information. So for the use of language, every compulsory obligatory information, I mean, has to comply with the language legislation. And then a question about the botanicals claims on hold. No, of course they will not. I mean, I hope they will not definitely be cancelled as from 2027. we explained that, well, there was the recommendation of the European Court of Auditors, and the Commission has accepted the recommendation. So this means that she will work on a system, and we hope with our graded approach solution that we developed together with EHPM, SINADIETS, and our colleague associations, that we will be able to save as many as possible botanical claims on hold, of course. Do I see other questions? No, not for the moment. Well, in that case, just a few informations and announcements about coming events that we organize with BSUP and our BSUP Academy. Of course, some save the dates for major events, which are the General Assembly. It will take place on the 18th of March in Salon Zwaarboom. It's the place where we did it last year also. And the Congress 2025 is a Congress year, and we will celebrate the 35th anniversary of the existence of BSUP. So it will be a real festive edition. And then in the framework of our SUP Academy, this is the calendar for 2025. So we have already a very interesting calendar of workshops to offer you. You know that all the workshops are free of charge for BSUP members, of course. Oh yeah, there is another question about German. Yes, well, the use of German is also valid not only for sales in point of sales, but also for online sales. It's a particular article in the FIC, Food Information to Consumers legislation, and it is also so an obligation. If you sell to a German speaker consumer, you have to give him the information, provide him with the information in German. Okay, a clarification. Okay, well, it's not claims, for example. There is a question about the use of a claim. For example, vitamin D supports, contributes to the immune system. This is a claim. So a claim is not mandatory information. So it's voluntary information, and this has not to be translated. So this does not have to be compliant with the legislation on the use of languages. And then there is a question about sorting instructions. Well, the question is if sorting instructions, which will be indeed mandatory as of 2027, when will it start? This is something that I am not able to answer at this moment. It's not really clear. It all depends, of course, of the vote, and we are still waiting for the final text, and then the publication, the entry into force, and then the implementation. Okay, clarification is asked by someone about the royal decree. So it has to do, it's a proposal, it's what I called the TRIS notification of the new royal decree proposal. It is indeed a proposal for a new royal decree that will replace the existing royal decrees that are still in place now about nutrients, other substances, and botanicals.
Mm-hmm. I think, Valerie, that maybe I mentioned that there was a new version of the Royal Decree Botanicals that was published with some updates at the beginning of this year. Maybe that was the question.
Okay.
I don't know, but it's just these were some minor adjustments, in fact, and some corrections.
What we
But this
can
is
give...
different from the TRIS notification.
Okay, sorry, I was not aware of it. So, but maybe a general advice, you can always consult the latest version of the Royal Decree on the website of the Belgian authorities. Yes, it is on the website of the Belgian authorities, but the name is still the same. So you will not see that it is an update, but in fact it is an update. So they are really good in updating their information. So it's the last version is definitely on their website, but it has still the same name. So it's the decree of the 31st of August 2021, but it's a new version, in fact.
Yes, I think that it's the naming of the Royal Decree that has been confusing for some of our members. I noticed during the past year that some members were still using the old version, but it has been updated in January 2024.
As an anecdote, before the change of 2021, it was called the Royal Decree for Botanicals of 1997. So it was even worse.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. But officially, it's still the Royal Decree of 2021.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it is correct. Yeah.
Okay. So if you still have questions, feel free to ask them by email and by contacting us. So I hope this was a good information session for you, and we addressed a lot of topics. I wish you a nice end of the day, and also looking forward to see you again at a next BSUP meeting. Thank you very much.